The first sign isn't panic. It's silence. You walk into a grocery store you've been to 100 times before. The lights are on. The carts are still lined up. But something feels off. The bread shelf has gaps. The milk section looks thinner than usual. A few people are moving quickly, grabbing more than they normally would. No announcement, no warning, just a quiet shift. Maybe it starts with a delayed shipment. Maybe a transport route gets disrupted. Maybe people hear something and react all at once. Either way, the first 72 hours don't look like a crisis. They look manageable. You improvise. You substitute. You assume it will pass. But by week 3, the pattern changes. The same shelves stay empty. The replacements are gone too. Prices have adjusted. Routines start to break down. What felt temporary begins to feel normal. And here's the part most people miss. The first foods to disappear aren't always the obvious ones. It's not just about what lasts the longest. It's about what people depend on the most, without even thinking. We've seen this pattern before. Not once, not twice. Repeated shortages, different causes, same outcome. The same categories empty first. The same mistakes repeat. Most households prepare for comfort, not duration. The households that stay calm plan differently. They don't just store food. They understand which foods vanish first and why. Because once you see the pattern, you stop reacting and you start positioning. Most people assume shortages are random, that shelves empty based on panic alone. But when you step back and look closely, there's a clear structure behind it. But certain foods disappear first because they sit at the center of daily life. They're not optional. They're routine. When something disrupts supply, even slightly, demand for these items spikes immediately.
This looks delicious.
Not because people are hoarding, but because they're trying to maintain normal life for as long as possible. Shelf life plays a role, but not in the way most people think. Short shelf life means frequent restocking. That creates a constant dependency on delivery systems. When those systems slow down, even for a few days, the gap shows quickly. Then there's logistics. Some foods rely on cold chains. Others depend on continuous production. If either one is interrupted, the product doesn't just slow down. It stops reaching shelves entirely. And then there's habit. People don't just buy food. They buy patterns, breakfast routines, dinner staples, cooking habits that don't change overnight. So when disruption hits, people don't suddenly become strategic. They double down on what they already use. That's the key to understanding what disappears first. It's not about rarity. It's about reliance. Once you understand that, the list becomes predictable. And more importantly, your preparation becomes intentional instead of reactive. Based on that framework, there are 12 foods that consistently vanish faster than others. Not because they're rare, but because they sit at the center of daily consumption and system dependency. The first one is bread. Bread moves constantly. It's baked daily, delivered daily, and sold daily. There's no deep reserve sitting in the back. When supply slows, even slightly, the shelf clears within hours. Bread solves immediate calorie needs. It requires no preparation. That makes it one of the first things people reach for when uncertainty starts. Then there's milk. Milk depends entirely on continuous logistics. It's perishable, temperature sensitive, and restocked frequently. When transport is disrupted or demand spikes, it disappears quickly. For many households, milk supports children, breakfast routines, and basic nutrition. When it's gone, the impact is immediate. Eggs follow the same pattern. They seem simple, but they rely on consistent production and distribution. Eggs are versatile. They can be used across multiple meals. That makes them a high-demand item in uncertain conditions. When people start buying extra, supply doesn't keep up. Then there's cooking oil. This one surprises people. Oil doesn't feel urgent, but it's essential. Without it, a large portion of everyday cooking becomes difficult. It has a longer shelf life, which means people buy it in larger quantities when they sense disruption. That creates a sudden surge in demand that empties shelves quickly. That's the first wave. The foods people rely on daily without thinking. The ones that support routine. When those disappear, people shift their focus. They start thinking longer term. That's where the second group comes in. Rice is one of the first to go in this category. It's affordable, calorie-dense, and stores well. It becomes a default option when people start preparing for more than a few days. Once demand increases, it doesn't just disappear. It stays gone longer because restocking large quantities takes time. Pasta follows closely. It's simple, familiar, and easy to prepare. Like rice, it supports multiple meals. It doesn't require refrigeration. That makes it a go-to item when people start building a buffer. Once it clears out, it creates a noticeable gap in meal planning. Canned vegetables are next. They represent stability, long shelf life, minimal preparation. When fresh produce becomes less reliable, people shift toward canned options. That shift happens quickly, and it creates sustained demand over time. Then there are beans. Dry or canned, beans provide protein and calories. They're one of the few affordable sources of both. As conditions stretch beyond a few days, people start prioritizing nutrition over convenience. Beans become essential, and once they're gone, they're not easily replaced. This second wave doesn't vanish as fast as the first, but it lasts longer. Because once people move into this phase, they're no longer thinking about today. They're thinking about the next 2 weeks. And then there's the third group, the ones most people overlook until it's too late. Salt is one of them. It seems basic, almost insignificant, but it's critical for food preservation and flavor. Without it, even stored food becomes harder to use effectively. It doesn't take much for salt to disappear, because supply is steady under normal conditions, but not heavily stocked in bulk at the household level. Sugar follows a similar pattern. It's used across multiple applications: baking, preserving, quick energy. When routines shift, sugar becomes more valuable. People start buying more than usual, and supply doesn't always keep up. Flour is another one. It becomes important when people start making food instead of buying it. Bread, flatbreads, basic meals. Flour allows households to stretch other ingredients further, but it depends on milling, packaging, and distribution systems. When those slow down, availability drops. And then there's baby formula, or any specialized dietary food. This is where the impact becomes personal. These aren't optional items. They're critical for specific needs. And when supply tightens, these products disappear quickly because there are limited alternatives. That completes the 12. Each one plays a different role, but they all share one thing in common. They're hard to replace once they're gone. And that leads to the most important insight. It's not about how long something lasts on your shelf. It's about how easily you can replace it once the system is under pressure. Most people focus on storage. They ask, how long will this last? But the better question is, what happens when I run out? If a food is difficult to produce locally, difficult to substitute, or dependent on complex logistics, it becomes high risk during disruption. That's what makes something duration grade. not just shelf life, but replacement difficulty. Once you shift your thinking that way, your priorities change. You stop chasing what looks impressive, and you start focusing on what actually protects you over time. The most common mistake people make is preparing based on what feels useful, instead of what disappears first. They buy specialty items, freeze-dried meals, expensive kits, things that look prepared, but they overlook the basics. The everyday foods that support real routines. When disruption hits, they realize they can't maintain normal life, not because they don't have food, but because they don't have the right food. They have calories, but no structure. That's where stress starts to build, because preparation isn't just about survival, it's about stability. And stability comes from familiarity, from being able to eat in a way that feels normal even when conditions aren't. That's why everyday foods matter more than most people think. Now, when you start thinking about what to keep on hand, cost becomes part of the equation. Not just total cost, but cost per calorie, cost per use, cost per flexibility. Foods like rice and beans offer high return for their price.
First,
they provide calories, nutrition, and storage efficiency. They can be used in multiple ways. That makes them strong foundational items. Cooking oil, for example, adds calories and improves the usability of other foods. A small amount can extend meals significantly. Flour allows you to create food instead of relying on it being available. That shifts your position from dependent to adaptable. The goal isn't to spend more. It's to get more value from what you store and to build overlap. So if one item runs out, another can take its place. But storage isn't just about what you have. It's about how well you protect it. Most households underestimate storage risks. Heat is one of the biggest factors. In warmer climates, food degrades faster. Oils can go rancid. Dry goods lose quality. That shortens your effective storage window. Humidity is another issue. It affects grains, flour, and anything that isn't sealed properly. Moisture leads to spoilage, mold, and waste. Then there are pests. Insects and rodents are drawn to stored food. Without proper containers, losses can happen quietly over time. Power outages add another layer. Refrigerated items become vulnerable. Freezers lose reliability. And then there's rotation. Food isn't just stored. It needs to be used and replaced. Without rotation, even well-planned supplies become unusable. Different regions face different challenges. In hotter areas, heat management becomes critical. In colder regions, storage may be easier, but access during severe weather becomes a factor. Preparation isn't one size fits all. It adjusts to your environment. And as time goes on, the situation evolves. By week 3, the focus shifts again. At this point, it's not just about what disappeared first. It's about what's left. Substitutes that worked in the first few days start to run out. The options narrow. Meals become simpler. Repetition increases. Foods that once felt basic start to carry more value. A bag of rice becomes central. A bottle of oil becomes strategic. A simple ingredient becomes the difference between a complete meal and an incomplete one. This is where preparation shows its real impact, not in the first few days, but in the ability to maintain stability over time. Because as conditions stretch, small gaps become bigger problems, and small advantages become meaningful. This is also where mindset matters. Prepared households don't just have supplies. They have clarity. They don't rush. They don't overreact. They don't chase what's already gone. They adjust. They use what they have efficiently. They make decisions based on structure, not emotion. That creates a calm advantage. And it's noticeable, because while others are trying to figure out what to do next, prepared households are already operating within a plan. Preparation is not panic, it is positioning, and it changes how you move through uncertainty. So here's something to think about. Which of these would your household run out of first? Not what you have, but what you depend on. Because that answer tells you more about your preparedness than anything else. In the end, this isn't about predicting events. It's about understanding patterns and positioning yourself ahead of them. Preparation removes uncertainty,